Students, the poem which we are going to study now is the rime of the ancient mariner, written by Samuel Taylor. Samuel Taylor Coleridge is one of the greatest romantic poets of English and a close friend and associate of William Wordsworth. He was born on 21st October at Otley, St. Mary, Devonshire. In 1791, he joined Jesus College, Cambridge, but left it in 1793. In 1824, when the Royal Society for Literature was founded, Coleridge was made one of the first 10 associates with the pension of £100 a year. This literary genius breathed his last on July 25, 1834. Now let's see some introduction about the poem. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner is one of the greatest poems of English literature, and it is in the form and style of folk ballad. It first appeared in lyrical ballads in the year 1798. The poem consists of 625 lines, all written in the ballad stanza form, mostly rhyming A, B, C, B. The rhyming scheme of this poem is A, B, C, B. And the poem is a masterpiece of craftsmanship and makes a better reading as a narrative than a didactic poem. Although it is a moral or is sublime, he play well who loveth well. Now let's discuss about the poem, that is the summary of the poem. The poem starts like this. There were three guests who were hurrying to a wedding feast, and one of them was stopped by an old sailor. That old sailor was Ancient Mariner, who insists on telling him his story. He was again and again telling that guest to stop and listen to his story, who is forced to stay and hear the old man's story. The guest was not having any other option, and he stopped there and listened to the story. The mariner begins his story by describing how his ship left the harbor and began its journey on a happy note. Now like this, the mariner started his story. After a brief spell of smooth journey, a tremendous storm drove it southwards to the region of snow, mist, and ice. In the beginning, the ship went on very smoothly, but after some time it drove it to southwards and to the region of snow, mist, and ice. It was a lifeless and terrible region where the vessel lay ice-bound and motionless. There was nothing but snow all around. Nothing could be seen there. Huge masses of snow and ice floated all over, and as far as eye could see there was ice and more ice. Nothing else could be seen. As it cracked, it made a thunderous sound. And it was at this critical juncture that an albatross came flying through the mist. The sailors welcomed it as a noble soul sent by God, because when the albatross came, the good time also came with the albatross. Albatross came flying through the mist, and the sailors welcomed it. Fed by the soldiers playing with them, it hovered over the ship. Whenever the sailors called the albatross for playing with them, for playing with it. It came to play with them. It came to have food with them and all. Fortunately, just then a huge mass of ice split with deafening sound, creating a huge crack through which the ship was steered out and then taken away from the cursed region. Just after the albatross came, the good time also came, and the ship was passed through that region. The albatross gave them company, flying along with, perching on the ship during the evenings. Favorable winds started blowing. Everybody was relieved because they were thinking that it is all because of Albatross. Albatross has come to them like a god. Listening to his account of their voyage, the wedding guest suddenly saw the sailor's pale face. Unable to understand the reason, he asked the old sailor why he looked so anxious and excited. The sailor told in a mood of wantonness. One day he cruelly shot the albatross with his crossbow, and at first his comrades blamed him for his cruel act and said it will bring a curse. When the mist cleared off, they said it was right to kill the bird that had fought the fog and mist. The mariner was thinking that the albatross was not good for them as it came with the fog and mist, but all the sailors were blaming the mariner for killing the albatross. That with the albatross they are happy that their good time came, and by killing the albatross again they will have to face the bad time. For a time all went well. The ship sailed northwards into the silent sea. All at once the wind stopped, and the ship came to a standstill. Now again the time comes when the ship came to a standstill. There was silence all around. Nothing could be seen, nothing could be heard. No one had the heart to talk. Why? Because days went by. Their supply of water ran out. Not a drop of water was available for drinking. There are lines in the poem that water, water everywhere, but not a single drop to drink. Here it is this irony. Why? Because on the one side it is saying that water, water everywhere, but why there is no drop of drinking? The very sea seemed to rot and ugly creatures moved on the waters. And the sea seemed to be rotten and it is and the ugly creatures moved on the waters. Polar Spirit was following the sailors to torment them with the cruelty of the seabird. Their mouths became utterly dry because they didn't have even a single drop of water since days, and they could not speak even because their mouths were completely dry. All the other sailors looked with hatred at the ancient mariner that he had killed the albatross. They pulled away the cross, and he wrote round his neck and hung the dead albatross in its place as a mark of his sin and guilt. And the sailors hung a hung the albatross in around the neck of the mariner as a mark of sin and a guilt that why he killed albatross, he has to remember this sin all over his life. Now, the theme of the poem is that it does have a very significant theme or moral to teach, that the whole poem is based on the theme that the best form of prayer to God is love, his beautiful creations. We should not hate the creators of God, like birds, animals, trees, human beings. We should love them all. And the ancient mariner commits the sin of killing an albatross, a beautiful creature of God. What was the sin in this poem? The sin in this poem is killing of albatross. For this sin he has to undergo great sufferings. Even his fellow sailors who unwittingly sided with him and approved the killing of the bird also came to harm, or siding with the sinner itself a sin. Now, what message do we get from this poem? It conveys the message that those who harm and torture others, those who harm and torture others can never experience peace of mind. Guilty conscience keeps on pricking the mind. The sinner as well as those who support sin are punished sooner or later in our life. Now, let's discuss the rhyme of the ancient mariner as a ballad. The poem as a ballad. The rhyme of the ancient mariner, it is a lyrical ballad. What is lyrical ballad? That is in the form of style of a folk ballad, which is usually written by an anonymous person. According to the reader's companion, the ballad is a narrative song poem, usually relating a single dramatic incident or story in the form of a suitable for singing or rhythmical chanting. And folk ballads often have sudden dramatic beginnings, are written in the form of a dialogue, usually between the narrator and the listeners as well as between characters. Now, literary devices in the poem. Alliteration. Alliteration is used. Example of alliteration is the furrow, followed, free, down, dropped, the breeze, the sail, dropped, down. Then examples of repetition, glittering eye, eyes was here, bright-eyed mariner, and repetition of the sentence is out of the sea came he. Then next is went down into the sea. And rhyming scheme of the poem is lines 45 to 50. It's A, 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 B, C, B. And then lines 91 to 96 and 97 to 102. That's A, B, C, B, D, B. This is the rhyming scheme. Then other literary devices which are used in this poem. Other literary devices. Metaphor. Example, the very deep snowy cliffs. Now you have to attempt two questions. Number one, why is the wedding guest restless? Question number two, what values do you learn from the suffering of the ancient mariner.